baby chicken. Wait a minute. Oh my god!
These are the funniest fake Minecraft speedruns in the entire world. This speedrunner starts right next to a village. But not only that, they also start in their last hotbar slot, which immediately lets us know that the speedrun is more than likely fake. But once the speedrunner turns to look at the village, they see some striders trapped inside some fences. But the thing is, striders only spawn inside of snow biomes. So a strider being right here literally makes no sense. Well, the speedrunner ignores these very strange striders and finds a villager's house, which I've honestly never seen before. And the house has 4 doors. So they enter door number 1 and find a chest filled with emeralds. So they take the emeralds and enter door 2, which also has a chest. And of course, it's filled with tons of emeralds. So they take these emeralds as well and enter door 3, which has the exact same thing. Well, I have a weird feeling that door number 4 also has tons of emeralds. And if I'm right, I think that everyone should subscribe. Well, they enter door number 4, and of course, there's tons of emeralds. So I guess that means that everyone has to subscribe. Now that they have around 2 billion emeralds, they go up to a villager at the blacksmith and buy a fire aspect sword. They then enter the blacksmith, which surprisingly has some pretty normal loot. So they take the loot and leave the blacksmith. But that's when they decide to go back towards the striders and kill them for literally no reason. They then decide to get some food, so they go to a farm and steal some potatoes. Wait, what is that? They spot a trapdoor in the water, so of course they enter it and find a nether portal. I'm pretty sure nether portals spawning beneath farms is actually in the newest update, which makes this completely legit. Well, the speedrunner enters the portal, and once they're in the nether, they look around and find some diamonds? Well, I don't think diamonds spawn in the nether. Well, either way, they mine the diamonds and find a chest behind them, which of course has a stack of ender eyes. So the speedrunner takes the ender eyes and leaves the nether. Once they're back in the overworld, they find exactly 4 tall grass. So they break all the tall grass and break the blocks below it, and they jump into the hole. Wait, what the heck is happening? How are they in the end? Well, I guess now that they're in the end, they look around the entire end, and there's just for some reason no ender dragon. Which, in case you didn't know, makes it incredibly easy for the speedrunner to beat the game. And that's exactly what they do by going through the portal and beating the game. This speedrunner starts by fighting the Steve for literally no reason, and I'm pretty sure they win the 1v1 because the Steve apparently just runs away and drops them their head. Oh, wait a minute, this is the wrong footage. My bad. See this crying emoji? Well, that will literally be me if you do not subscribe, so you better subscribe. This speedrunner starts in a plains biome and they immediately go to a tree to get some wood. That's when we see a red mushroom on a singular block of podzol, which would not naturally spawn inside of a plains biome. Well, for now, just keep this in mind for later. The speedrunner begins to mine the tree until they eventually find a barrel, and inside the barrel is a stack of planks. And for some reason, the speedrunner uses the stack of planks to build themselves a house. They give us a quick little house tour, but if we rewind the footage back to whenever they were making the house and pause it right here, we can see some little particle effects through this dirt. And these particle effects only show up when there's a nether portal, where the speedrunner goes up to this exact same spot and breaks the dirt just to find an already lit nether portal, which is obviously cheated. When the speedrunner goes into the nether, and once in the nether, they look around for a little bit, but they find absolutely nothing until they look inside this lava and find a chest filled with blaze powder. But the speedrunner takes their blaze powder and goes back through the portal and into the overworld. Remember when we talked about that mushroom and the podzol? Well, the speedrunner goes up to that mushroom and breaks below the podzol and finds a chest filled with ender pearls. So the speedrunner takes the ender pearls and uses their blaze powder and the ender pearls to make themselves some eyes of ender. Once the speedrunner has their eyes of ender, they go up to another dirt spot and break through it just to find a weird long hallway. So they go down the hallway and then turn around and they're somehow in the struggle? I'm not gonna lie, I am very confused. Well, the speedrunner places in the eyes of ender and enters the end. But once they're in the end, they don't have a pickaxe to be able to get out. Oh, wait, how the heck did they get out? Alright then. Well, the speedrunner is now trying to fight the ender dragon, but they have no loot. So if the speedrunner finds some magical way to kill the ender dragon and wins the speedrun, I think everyone should subscribe, because that would be insanely impressive. Well, the speedrunner goes up to the ender dragon and hits it once, and the ender dragon is somehow dead. Well, I guess that means you have to subscribe. So the speedrunner just goes through the portal and easily wins the speedrun. This speedrunner starts right next to a snowy village. So the first thing they do is enter the village when they suddenly get stuck inside some snow, which is honestly kind of embarrassing. Once they finally get out of the snow, they see a pink sheep out in the distance, with only a 0.00001% chance of spawning. So if you ever find a pink sheep, make sure to not kill it. Wait, what are they doing? Well, the speedrunner killed the extremely rare pink sheep, and then they go up to a villager's house and open the door to find a chest. And inside the chest is some normal loot other than the fact that there's a stack of obsidian. So the speedrunner takes the obsidian and leaves the house. But that's when the speedrunner sees a cobblestone pillar in the middle of a lake. So the speedrunner goes up to the pillar, and now they're suddenly in the nether? Well, I don't know about you, but I am very, very confused. The speedrunner looks around the nether for a little bit until they see some wooden parkour. So the speedrunner goes up to the parkour, but instead of doing it normally, they instead open up their inventory and find some elytra with some fireworks. So they put on the elytra and just fly up to the end of the parkour. And that's where they find a chest, but they open the chest and there is no loot inside of it. Wait a minute, what? I could have sworn literally 2 seconds ago that there was no loot inside the chest, but maybe I'm just crazy or something. Well, the speedrunner takes the stack of Eyes of Ender and goes back down to the pillar to do their magical tricks again. So now that they're back in the village, they wander around for a little bit until they suddenly break a random piece of ice and drop down a hole which leads them to the stronghold? I don't know about you, but this is a very weird looking stronghold. To me, it just looks like the speedrunner tried to recreate the stronghold but failed miserably. Well, the speedrunner places in the Eyes of Ender and enters the end. But once the speedrunner is in the end, they come up with a 200 IQ play because they just go inside a creative and break all the end crystals and kill the ender dragon. Like I said, a 200 IQ play. And that's how the speedrunner got the world record time for the fastest speedrun. This speedrun starts right next to a village. And right off the bat, we can tell that something is strange because there are tons of iron golems. But once the speedrunner starts going through the village, they for some reason find iron and roses on the ground, which only drops whenever iron golems are killed. And there is a lot of iron, so the speedrunner goes around the village getting all of the iron, but that's when the speedrunner sees some weird colored wood at the tip of this house. So the speedrunner enters the house and finds a chest, which has a stack of obsidian and a flint and steel. So the speedrunner takes the loot and goes outside the building to build themselves a nether portal. Once the speedrunner is in the nether, they find a very obvious path. So we go across the path until they find an ender chest. They open the ender chest and find tons of Eyes of Ender. So they take the Eyes of Ender and go back through the portal. Once they're back in the overworld, they take a piece of wood and make it into a crafting table. And that's when they use their iron to make themselves a full set of iron armor. The speedrunner then wanders around the village for a little bit until they spot this very odd looking tree. So they go up to the tree and start mining it, and that's when they find a secret ladder. So they climb up the ladder and find an end portal. I didn't know end portals spawn on top of trees, but maybe I just missed an update. But the speedrunner places in their Eyes of Ender and enters the end. Once in the end, they instantly find tons of diamond blocks. So they follow the path of diamond blocks, but that's when they realize that there is simply no ender dragon. So they just simply go through the portal. This speedrunner starts in a village, but they start with a stick inside their inventory, which means that this speedrun is more than likely gonna be fake. The speedrunner walks up to the closest house, and inside the house is a barrel. They open the barrel to find a diamond chest plate and 2 diamonds. So they take all the loot, put on the diamond chest plate, and use the stick that they magically spawned with and the 2 diamonds to make a diamond sword. The speedrunner leaves the house and begin to walk down the path. Wait, what? Is that a parrot? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure parrots only spawn in the nether. So how is there a parrot inside this village? Well, the speedrunner then finds a very normal looking wall, so of course they decide to break it and find a nether portal. So they enter the nether portal, and once on the other side, they find a very, very long nether vine thingy. So they of course climb it, and once they reach the top, they find an entire room filled with diamonds and a chest. They open the chest just to find 2 Eyes of Ender. So the speedrunner takes the 2 Eyes of Ender and goes back down the vine. They then go back through the portal and back into the overworld. They then randomly decide to kill this parrot. Wait, how are they in the stronghold? I think killing that parrot gave them some magical teleportation abilities, because that makes sense. The speedrunner looks at the portal, which is conveniently missing 2 Eyes of Ender, which is the perfect amount that the chest had, which means that this speedrunner must just be very, very lucky. Well, the speedrunner places in the Eyes of Ender and enters the end. Once in the end, they find themselves in a box, but they have no way out because they don't have a pickaxe. Wait, what? They mine their way out, and once they're above ground, they look around, and there is no enderman, which means that this speedrunner is playing on peaceful, which breaks the rules of speedrunning. Well, the speedrunner takes the next 20 minutes just killing the ender dragon, and then they eventually win. This speedrunner starts by mining some coal. They They then shoot a zombie with their bow, and then kick a zombie. Oh wait, wrong footage. The speedrunner starts close to a village, but the speedrunner is looking down at the ground, and they have 1 XP. Both things that mean that the speedrun could be fake. The speedrunner makes her way to the village, and begins mining the tree in the middle. But as they begin mining it, they suddenly find a chest, and inside the chest is a diamond pickaxe with efficiency 5, which seems pretty legit to me. They take the pickaxe, and then begin to steal some carrots from the villagers. They then suddenly start digging straight down 4 blocks and find diamonds? I don't think diamonds spawn 4 blocks deep into the ground, but maybe they're just really lucky. They mined all the diamonds, and it was actually an 18 vein of diamonds, which has a negative 6.9% chance of spawning. The speedrunner builds out of the hole, and begins to walk around. What the heck is that? They find a hay bale house with 2 chests inside of it. They open the chest and find tons and tons of hay bales. Honestly, what was I expecting to be inside the chest? They take the hay bales, and then they randomly decide to break this wall and find another portal, but it's not lit. So the speedrunner looks at this wall and types inside chat saying that they will be right back. And now they have flint and steel. They light the portal and enter the nether. Once in the nether, they find a pen full of pigs. So they begin killing the pigs, which I guess drop him a stack of ender eyes, because everyone knows pigs drop ender eyes. And then the speedrunner leaves the nether. Once they're back in the overworld, they look around the village, but then spot a specific house that has quartz stairs, which is very, very real. So they enter the house, and turns out there's an ender portal inside the house. They place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. Once in the end, they dig out and begin to climb a pillar, but then the ender dragon comes in to attack them, so they do an insane hay bale clutch. They then begin attacking the ender dragon, even though they broke 0 end crystals, which means that this speedrunner is probably a noob. They then randomly die by an enderman, which is honestly just embarrassing. This speedrun starts in the middle of a desert, but once the speedrunner turns around, they find some weird crimson trees, which I'm pretty sure only spawns in the nether. But not only that, there's also a strider. They make their way through the trees until they find a pyramid. They enter the pyramid. Wait, what? Isn't that block supposed to be purple, not yellow? Or am I just colorblind? Well, the speedrunner digs straight down and finds 4 doors. The first door the speedrunner enters is filled with villagers, but there's also a lever. They flick the lever and tons of lava starts flowing down, which eventually just kills all of the villagers. They enter the next door to find a sign that says poop. Okay then. They go to the next door and find another portal. So they enter the portal, then once on the other side, they look around for a little bit until they find a chest in the lava, which is filled with ender eyes. The speedrunner takes all the ender eyes and goes back through the portal. Once they're back at the temple, they open the last door and find an end portal with 3 villagers inside of it. The speedrunner begins to place in the eyes of ender and enters the end. Once in the end, they look around for a little bit, but there's nowhere they can go. But then the video suddenly cuts and they somehow won, because that definitely makes sense. This speedrunner starts in a snow biome. They look around and find absolutely nothing. Any speedrunner in the situation would just leave the game and get a new seed. But instead, this speedrunner decides to start mining a tree. They begin mining the tree, and then they suddenly gain flint and steel? I don't think trees drop flint and steel. The speedrunner makes her logs into planks, makes some sticks, makes a crafting table, and places down the crafting table to make themselves a hoe. They start running away and don't even take their crafting table. As they're running, they keep on hoeing the ground for some reason, until they find a lava pool with another portal that's not lit. But it's a good thing that magical tree gave them flint and steel, because now they can light the portal. And that's exactly what they do, and they enter the nether. Once they're in the nether, there's a house made completely out of beehives, which has a 0.00001% chance of spawning, so it is very, very rare. The speedrunner enters the house, and there's nothing inside the house. But they suddenly turn around, and there's a chest. They open the chest, which has full diamond armor and a diamond sword. They take the loot, put on the armor, and go back through the nether portal. But once they go through to the other side, they're suddenly in a village. If you look at it from before, the speedrunner was definitely not inside of a village, where the speedrunner finds a weird diamond structure with a horse inside of it. They get on the horse, but the horse doesn't get tamed because they somehow already tamed it, which means the speedrunner must have tamed the horse before they actually started the speedrun. But there's only one problem. They don't have a saddle, which means they can't ride the horse. Well, the speedrunner goes up to this campfire, breaks the block, opens the chest, and there's a saddle. They place the saddle on the horse and begin running off into the distance, until they suddenly get off their horse and mine these blocks and find a chest. And inside the chest is a diamond pickaxe with fortune 3 and efficiency 5. They take the pickaxe and begin walking down the mine. Once they get close to the bottom, they find tons of emeralds. They mine all the emeralds, which gives them 37 emeralds. The speedrunner goes back up the mine, gets back on his horse, and starts heading back to the village. Once he's back at the village, he finds a villager that's already trapped. So he begins trading with the villager, but his only trade is brick for emeralds, which would be such a stupid trade. Who the heck would do that? Wait, why is he trading that? That is probably the dumbest trade I think I've ever seen. But the speedrunner now has 2 stacks and a half of brick, and then he begins to enter a villager's house. And inside the house is a sign that says says drop brick below. So of course the speedrunner drops all of his brick, backs up, and literally nothing happens. So the speedrunner leaves the house, and what the heck is that? There's somehow an end portal that's already lit, which definitely was not there before. The speedrunner enters the end, but then probably gets the worst spawn ever. He's super far away from the island, and only has 5 blocks. So the speedrunner places all of his 5 dirt blocks, and then places down his sapling for some reason, and he has no choice but to try and make the jump, which is exactly what he does, but the jump was too hard and he just fails and dies. What a very good speedrun. This speedrunner starts looking straight up, so it's obviously fake. But once they look down, they're literally standing inside of an end portal. They step out of the end portal and then see a ruined portal across the lake. So they try to get closer to it and find some parkour. The speedrunner starts speedrunning the parkour and even makes a Neo first try. They absolutely obliterate the rest of the parkour and then easily make it to the ruined portal. They open the ruined portal chest to find a stack of ender eyes. They take the ender eyes and then find a roller coaster. But they don't have a minecart, so they open up the chest again and there's a minecart. They place on the minecart and begin riding on the roller coaster. And it even goes underneath the entire lake, which actually looks pretty cool. The roller coaster finally stops and the speedrunner begins to make their way back to the end portal. But once they get there, the end portal is already filled, which means they did all that for nothing. Well, they enter the end and find this very real naturally generated staircase right next to them. So they climb the staircase, but then as they start walking, they realize that there's no ender dragon, but they do see a sign. They get closer to the sign and the sign says, parkour skill was so good, it made dragon go bye-bye. Well, okay then. The speedrunner goes through the portal and they just win. This speedrun starts right next to a desert village. And the first thing they do is head into the village, but they cannot sprint. This is because they're literally about to die of hunger. There's no way they started a speedrun already losing hunger bars. But once the speedrunner is inside the village, they of course get themselves some food, but then as soon as they're done eating their food, we get a slight glimpse of this blue plank, which is a type of wood that does not spawn inside the desert, as it can only spawn inside the end. Well, the speedrunner explores the village a little bit more until they find 3 randomly placed chests. So they go up to the first chest and open it, where they find tons of diamonds. So they take the chest full of diamonds and go up to the second chest where they find more diamonds? Okay, well, they go up to the third chest, but wait. I have a weird feeling that this last chest is gonna have diamonds inside of it. So if I'm right, I think everyone should subscribe. Well, the speedrunner opens the chest and finds more diamonds. Who would have guessed? Well, I guess that means that everyone now has to subscribe. Well, now that the speedrunner has 2.69 billion diamonds, they enter a village's house which has a crafting table. So the speedrunner crafts himself full diamond armor. You're probably thinking that the speedrunner has some pretty overpowered loot. And that's what I thought too, until the speedrunner randomly wanders around and finds a random chest. So they open this random chest where they find insanely overpowered loot. I honestly didn't even know that they could get more overpowered loot than what they already had. But the speedrunner takes all of this loot and heads into the Mangrove Swamp biome. As they go deeper inside of it, they find a random desert area in the middle of the swamp. Not only that, but they also find a buried ruin portal. But here's where things get rather strange, because as they go up to the ruin portal, they dig in a very specific spot where they find the chest to the ruin portal. Now, I'm just confused how they knew that the chest was here, because something's telling me that they definitely are cheating. Well, they open the chest and surprisingly find some pretty normal loot, but they only needed this chest for the flint and steel. So they take the flint and steel and build out of the hole. They then for the next minute just dig out the entirety of the ruin portal until all the sand is out of the way. They then light the nether portal and enter the nether. Once they're in the nether, we can spot something that is very unnatural. A soul sand bridge that weirdly leads to absolutely nowhere. So the speedrunner follows this bridge until 2 ghast start shooting at them. So they place some obsidian around them and then go in third person where we can see this very odd chest. I guess going in third person gave them a whole new perspective on things. Well, they open the chest and find tons of blaze rods and also some ender pearls. So the speedrunner takes all the loot and heads back towards the nether portal. Now, once they're back in the overworld, they build out of the hole and then turn their blaze rods into blaze powder and make themselves some eyes of ender. They then throw the eyes of ender and follow it into the Mangrove Swamp, where eventually they find an end portal, so they place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. Once they're in the end, the speedrunner kinda messes up, because they're trapped in a box and they have no pickaxe. That is until the speedrunner goes up to the wall and backs up and they're suddenly out of the hole, which I'm pretty sure is not legit. The speedrunner then uses their bow to shoot out all the end crystals, but then tons and tons of endermen start attacking them. And I think this makes the speedrunner extremely frustrated, because in the blink of an eye, all the endermen die, including the ender dragon. The speedrunner could even beat the the Ender Dragon with their cheated items, which is honestly just embarrassing. This speedrunner starts by running a tank into a tree? What the heck? Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. This speedrunner starts inside of a snowy village, but for some reason they're on a snowy icicle. Well, the speedrunner goes down the icicle and immediately gets some carrots from a farm. But then this cute little rabbit wants some carrots, so they smack it. The speedrunner then goes throughout the village until they find the blacksmith. So once they enter the blacksmith, they open the chest and find full iron armor, which, don't get me wrong, isn't impossible, but is actually pretty rare to get full iron armor out of one chest from the blacksmith. The speedrunner takes all the loot and puts on the iron armor. They then mine some wood to get themselves some sticks and enter another villager's house where they for some reason open a furnace and find 3 diamonds. I'm not sure why there's 3 diamonds inside of a furnace, but I guess I'm just crazy or something. The speedrunner then places down a crafting table and makes himself a diamond pickaxe. Now that they have a diamond pickaxe, they find some coal, and whenever they go to mine it, they realize that on the other side is a nether portal. Well, I guess the speedrunner goes through the portal, and once they're in the nether, they suddenly have a diamond sword, which if you look back inside the footage, they definitely did not have a diamond sword. They also have like 100 piglins trying to kill them, so they begin running away when all of a sudden the piglins just stop attacking them. And that's when we can see that the speedrunner has a golden helmet, which they definitely did not have before. Well, the speedrunner tries to fight the blazes, but the blazes get him down to half a heart, and just as he's about to die, he is suddenly full HP. So I think the speedrunner died, but just cut out the part where they actually died. Well, instead of killing the blazes for blaze rods, the speedrunner instead just breaks the spawner. And once they go up to the portal, they open up their inventory where we can see that they already have blaze rods, even though they killed 0 blazes. Well, they go back to the portal and into the overworld, where they find this absolutely insane sugarcane farm. Even though I'm pretty sure villagers don't even use sugarcane farms, well, the speedrunner breaks the entire sugarcane farm and then goes across this lake, where they see a chunky piece of snow, so they break it and then begin digging straight down. They keep on digging straight down, where they eventually find themselves in the stronghold. Wow, what are the chances that they spawn on top of the stronghold? Pretty lucky, huh? They break the silverfish spawner, and turns out that they only need 1 more Eye of Ender. So they turn around and find a random chest, which of course has 1 Eye of Ender. They place in the Eye of Ender and enter the end. Once they're in the end, they dig out of the hole and begin wandering around the end, where they realize that there's just no Ender Dragon. So I guess the Ender Dragon just took a day off or something. Well, they go through the portal and win the speedrun. This speedrunner starts in a plains biome and immediately goes to mine a tree. Once they have enough logs, they make themselves a crafting table and start making their way across the plains biome until they find a cave with some iron and some coal. So they place down their crafting table and make themselves a wooden pickaxe. They then mine some stone and make themselves a stone pickaxe, which they use to mine the iron and the coal, which they smelt, and make themselves a bucket. They then take all their loot and head back to where they spawned at, but that's when we see this lava pool, which looks kinda weird, because normal lava pools usually have stone around them, which means that it's naturally generated, which makes me think that this speedrunner just placed down the lava here to fake the speedrun. But they fill their bucket up with water and try to make themselves a portal, but fail miserably. But that's when they look up into the sky and turn around, and there's suddenly a portal there, even though if you look back in the footage, there was definitely no portal there. But they can't even go to the nether because they don't have a flint and steel. But that's when they go up to this flower and dig next to it, and directly under it is a flint and steel. So they take the flint and steel and light the nether portal and enter the nether. Once they're in the nether, they go down this long cave and find some blaze rods just sitting on the ground. I don't think blaze rods just randomly drop on the ground like this. So they take the blaze rods and go back through the portal and into the overworld. Once they're in the overworld, they turn their blaze rods into blaze powder and then begin mining a tree, which they dig directly below and find an end portal. But the thing is, the speedrunner doesn't have any ender pearls. Wait, what? I don't recall them ever getting any ender pearls throughout the speedrun, but maybe I just forgot? Well, they place in the Eyes of Ender and enter the end. But once they're in the end, they think they can make this jump, but whenever they try, they miserably fail. And I'm pretty sure they rage quit because the speedrun just ends there. This speedrunner spawns in and immediately turns around and finds a pillager outpost and a ruin portal, which if you ask me, is a pretty lucky spawn. The speedrunner first goes to the pillager outpost, but tons of pillagers start attacking them. So the speedrunner enters the outpost, and once he gets to the top, he sees tons of pillagers and shulkers? Wait a minute, why are there shulkers in a pillager outpost? Because shulkers only spawn inside of caves, which means there's no way for a shulker to possibly be inside this outpost. Well, because of how many mobs there are, the speedrunner instantly dies, but they spawn back in and set the difficulty to peaceful? I'm pretty sure this breaks the rules of speedrunning. When the speedrunner goes back to the pillager outpost, outpost and can now attack the shulkers without them attacking him. So he opens the chest and finds tons of golden apples. Alright, he is definitely cheating just like my dad cheats on my mom. Wait, what? Well, he takes the golden apples and leaves the pillager outpost. Once the speedrunner is at the ruin portal, they loot the chest and surprisingly find some pretty normal loot. The only thing weird about this is that they have the exact amount of obsidian they need to fix the ruin portal. So they place down their obsidian and light the ruin portal. Once in the nether, the speedrunner finds a conveniently placed path of just gold ore. So of course the speedrunner follows the path, which of course leads him right to a nether fortress. Wait, why is this nether fortress filled with horses? And first of all, the horses shouldn't even be inside of another fortress because horses can only spawn in the desert. But once the speedrunner is in the fortress, they look around for a little bit until they find a house. They enter the small pink house and find a sign that says present from Herobrine. Let's just ignore the fact that the speedrunner is clearly in like first grade. And if this chest has some clearly cheated loot, I feel like that should mean that everyone should subscribe. Well, they open the chest and find a stack of Eyes of Ender because of course they do. They take the Eyes of Ender and make their way back towards the nether portal. Once they're back in the overworld, wait, what the heck? How did this end portal get here? Because if we look back in the footage, there was definitely not an end portal here, which means this speedrunner must be using some magical powers. Well, they place in the Eyes of Ender and enter the end. Once they're in the end, we can very quickly realize that there is just no Ender Dragon, but there are tons of diamond blocks and a sign, which says Herobrine killed dragon? Oh wow, thank you Herobrine, you're so nice. And that's how the speedrunner got the world record for the fastest speedrun. This speedrunner starts by looking down at the ground, but whenever they look up, they see a zombie spinning on a pole? Wait, what the heck is going on? Why are they giving him emeralds? Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. My bad. This speedrunner starts right next to a village. So they immediately go to the village and enter the closest house. And in the house is a block I've actually never seen before. But the speedrunner ignores this very strange block and leaves the house. They then find a horse with a saddle already attached to it, which only has a 2% chance of spawning. So the speedrunner rides the horse and begins running off into the distance, until eventually they can see a ruin portal out in the distance. But wait, is that ruin portal already lit? The chances of there being an already lit nether portal are literally impossible. But once the speedrunner is at the nether portal, they exit the horse and loot the chest, which has some normal loot. They then enter the portal, and once inside the nether, the speedrunner finds a creeper head and a sign. And the sign says, twerk on creeper for special gift. What the heck? Surely the speedrunner isn't gonna— wait, oh my god, what are you doing? Wait, how do they have Eyes of Ender all of a sudden? I am literally so confused what just happened. But the speedrunner takes her special gift and leaves the nether. But once they're in the overworld, they look around and their horse is literally nowhere to be seen. So the speedrunner ends up running all the way back to the village. But that's when the speedrunner types inside chat, BRB? Why is the speedrunner going AFK inside of a speedrun? It might be some new pro tactic, you never know. Well, eventually the speedrunner comes back and they go deeper inside the village, until they end up finding a sign with a hole behind it. And the sign says, not stronghold. Honestly, I think this sign is telling the truth. But the speedrunner drops down the hole and dies. Oh wait, never mind. I meant to say they easily make it down the hole, which led them to the stronghold. Well, I guess that sign was lying. Not only is the end portal already lit, there's also a chest and a bed. And inside the chest is insanely overpowered loot. So the speedrunner takes some of the loot, sets their spawn point, and enters the end. Once in the end, they have to make a very difficult jump. So the speedrunner tries to make the jump and fails. Oh wait, never mind, they easily made it. Oh, I could have sworn they fell there. Maybe it's just a glitch or something. Well, now that the speedrunner easily made the jump, they can now kill the Ender Dragon. Wait, why is the Ender Dragon on 1 HP? Well, all the speedrunner has to do is hit the dragon one time, but I think they shoot over a stack of arrows but consistently keep on missing. Honestly, I don't think there's a single person who has worse aim than this speedrunner. Eventually, they hit one shot and it kills the Ender Dragon. And that's how the speedrunner finishes his speedrun. This speedrunner starts inside of a village. They immediately turn into the right and go in third person, where we can see a strange emerald block on top of this roof. I'm guessing it was there to symbolize that building, so that way they know which building to go inside of. And that's exactly what they do. They go inside of that building and find a chest. And inside that chest is a strange amount of obsidian. So the speedrunner takes all the obsidian and leaves the house. Once outside, the speedrunner finds some floating obsidian, which I guess is there because he forgot to break his last nether portal. So with the speedrunner's very legit obsidian, they begin to make themselves a nether portal oh, they messed up. So they try making another nether portal, but they mess up again. Well, you know what they say, third time's a charm, and they build the nether portal. The only problem is they have no flint and steel to light the nether portal. Wait, what the heck is that? I don't think villagers randomly have a flint and steel inside of an item frame, but maybe I'm just missing an update. Well, the speedrunner takes the flint and steel and lights the nether portal, but instead of going inside the nether portal, the speedrunner turns around and begins to mine a random piece of grass which has TNT below it. Well, I wonder how they knew that was there. Well, now that the speedrunner has the TNT, they now go inside of the nether portal, and once in the nether, they look around for a little bit until they decide to mine a block and place their TNT inside of it. But once the TNT blows up, they find a chest. So the speedrunner opens the chest and find tons of ender eyes. Wait, what? There's also a pitcher pod? What the heck is a pitcher pod? Well, the speedrunner takes all the eyes of ender and the pitcher pod, I guess, and goes back through the nether portal and into the overworld. Once in the overworld, the speedrunner finds a dragon egg and they just stare at it. So, how's your day? They find some stone sticking out of the ground and they jump on top of it to do some insane house parkour and find the end portal? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure end portals don't just randomly spawn on top of villagers' roofs. But the speedrunner places in their eyes of ender and enters the end. Once at the end, the speedrunner is trapped inside of some end stone. And since they don't have a pickaxe, there's literally no way for them to get out. So how do you think the speedrunner is gonna get out of this hole? A, mine out with their fist. B, magically get a pickaxe. C, going creative. Or D, leave. Well, if you chose C, you are wrong, because they just leave the speedrun. This speedrunner starts inside of a swamp biome, which if you know anything about speedrunning, you know is probably the worst biome to speedrun in. They start off by finding tons of ocelots for some reason, which is kind of weird because everyone knows that ocelots only spawn inside of those pink tree biomes. But the speedrunner ignores the ocelots and begins to mine a tree. They get a few logs and turn the logs into planks, which they use to make a crafting table. Once they place down their crafting table, they make themselves a pressure plate and some trapdoors. The speedrunner places down the pressure plate and there are trapdoors right next to it and just sits there and looks at their amazing contraption. Eventually, the speedrunner gets bored and starts doing some weird stuff to this cow. And honestly, at this point, I'm confused how this is even a speedrun. The speedrunner then starts to attack this random baby ocelot for literally no reason. The speedrunner gets bored and starts making their way up a mountain. Once they get to the top, they see this giant cave that for some reason has torches inside the cave, which I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure torches don't just naturally spawn. But the speedrunner explores the cave for a little bit until they find an end portal. But the speedrunner obviously does not have any ender eyes. So they go in creative and give themselves some ender eyes. Wait, what? They place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. Once in the end, they go up to the dragon and type inside chat, "Dragon, die!" Which if you ask me is obviously not gonna work. Wait, what? Well, the dragon is now dead and the speedrunner goes to the portal, but wait a minute. They start to come up with an evil plan. They explode the entire end and then they go through the portal. This speedrunner starts in a village. But notice how the speedrunner is looking down at the ground. Well, the thing is, whenever you start a speedrun, you're typically looking straight, which means there is something quite strange about this speedrun. Well, the speedrunner begins looking around until they decide to enter this house, which has a magma cube inside of it. But wait, I thought magma cubes only spawn inside of oceans. So why the heck is there a magma cube inside of this house? Well, the speedrunner closes the door and leaves the house, and then suddenly spots some wheat. But instead of taking the wheat to make some food, they instead break this block and find a chest, which of course has some obsidian inside of it. So the speedrunner uses the obsidian to make themselves a nether portal, and once they finish making the nether portal, they realize that they don't have any flint and steel. So how could they possibly light the nether portal? Wait, what? I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea how that happened. Well, the speedrunner enters the nether. Wait, since when did the speedrunner get a diamond pickaxe? I'm actually so confused. Well, believe it or not, the speedrunner gets a pretty good nether spawn as they spawn right next to a bastion. Once they enter the bastion, they find themselves some gold. So they mine the gold and somehow find a double chest. If this speedrunner opens this very not suspicious at all chest and finds some insanely overpowered loot, I swear everyone has to subscribe. Well, let's see. The speedrunner opens the chest and finds some insanely overpowered loot. The speedrunner then takes the next 15 minutes just reorganizing their inventory, which if I'm honest is not the best use of time inside of a speedrun. They then turn their gold blocks into gold ingots, and that's where they find a hole filled with zombie pigmen. But then the speedrunner starts dropping his gold on the pigmen. But wait, why is the speedrunner dropping his gold on zombie pigmen when he should be dropping his gold on striders? Because if you drop it on striders, the striders will give you a random item. Well, the speedrunner stops dropping gold and suddenly gets Eyes of Ender, which I'm sure is 100% real and not fake at all. But the speedrunner makes her way back to the nether portal and enters back into the overworld. Once there, the speedrunner enters back inside the house where they saw the magma cube at, and for literally no reason at all, just decides to kill it. Once they're done with that, they begin to wander around the village, until they coincidentally trip and fall inside the well, which has an end portal? If you didn't know that end portals spawn beneath wells, you're probably new to Minecraft, because I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. Well, the speedrunner places in the Eyes of Ender and enters the end. Once in the end, the speedrunner decides to type inside chat, "Please die dragon?" The speedrunner then types /kill at E, which not only kills the Ender Dragon, but also kills himself. So the speedrunner technically lost the speedrun. This speedrunner starts by getting a hammer out of the sky. They then start smacking tons and tons of zombies with their hammer. They then suddenly, out of nowhere, jump into a big crowd of mobs and kill them all. Oh, wait, this is the wrong footage. My bad. I will be very, very sad if you don't subscribe. This speedrunner starts with a pink fence? I've never seen a speedrun that starts with a pink fence before, but okay. Well, the speedrunner turns around and finds a village. They begin to wander around the village until they find some diamonds? And right next to the diamonds is a chest that has an iron pickaxe, which the speedrunner uses to get the diamonds. They then find a crafting table inside of a house and use that to make themselves full diamond armor. But not only that, they also make themselves a bucket. They fill the bucket up with water and enter another villager's house, which has whatever the heck this is. But notice how the lava is shaped exactly like a nether portal. So I think the speedrunner is going to use this water bucket to make themselves a nether portal. And that's what the speedrunner at least tries to do, but spends the next 20 minutes trying to do it, but constantly keeps on messing up. Eventually, they get it right, but realize that they don't have a flint and steel. So they wander around the village until they see this ginormous cactus. So they walk up to the cactus and dig a hole right next to it, which for some reason has an ender chest. So the speedrunner takes the flint and steel and lights the nether portal. Once in the nether, the speedrunner finds an obsidian path. So of course they follow it, and much like the other speedrun, they find a bastion. Inside the bastion, they find two chests. They open the first chest and find some pretty normal loot, like a stack of ender pearls, and not one, but two stacks of enchanted golden apples. They take this very legit loot and start heading back towards the nether portal. But once they get back to it, they spot an ender dragon head with a chest and a sign, and the sign says Lord Poop? That must be the ender dragon's name, and honestly, it's a pretty good name. They open the chest and find a stack of blaze rods. So they take the blaze rods and leave the nether. They turn their blaze rods into blaze powder and make themselves some Eyes of Ender. They then wander around the village some more and find another sign that says Villager Poo Poo Hole. And behind the sign is a very, very deep hole, which the speedrunner of course jumps right into and finds a stronghold. So the speedrunner places in the Eyes of Ender and enters the end. Once in the end, they find this naturally generated path, so of course they walk right across it. But that's when they realize that there's simply no ender dragon. They do find a diamond block and a sign, and the sign says, "Dragon went on vacation?" The speedrunner celebrates in joy and jumps right into the end portal. This speedrunner starts right next to a village. So the speedrunner goes into the village and decides to enter the church. But for some reason, the church doesn't have a door. Not only that, whenever he opens up the brewing stand, he finds 3 strength potions, which I'm sure he did not place that there himself. He takes the 3 strength potions and leaves the church. He then suddenly spots a black box out in the distance, so once he gets closer, he realizes that it's actually a spawner. And inside the spawner is a bee? I'm not sure why a bee spawner is here, but alright. The speedrunner wanders around the village some more until they find the blacksmith. And surprisingly, when they enter the blacksmith and open the chest, they find some normal loot. They take the normal loot and use the iron pickaxe they got from the blacksmith to for some reason break the spawner. The speedrunner then sees a ruined portal out in the middle of the lake. But wait, is it already lit? The chances of a ruined portal already being lit is literally impossible. But the speedrunner jumps in the water and swims over to the ruined portal. They open the ruined portal chest and find 3 ender pearls. But the thing is, ender pearls don't even spawn inside of ruined portal chests, which is proof that the speedrun is just not legit. But the speedrunner takes the ender pearls and enters the nether. They spawn in the middle of nowhere, but see some gold in the wall. So they use their iron pickaxe to mine the gold, and of course there's a chest, which has tons and tons of ender eyes. But honestly, it looks pretty legit to me. They take all the Eyes of Ender and leave the nether. They start swimming back to the village, and once there, they just find a normal looking end portal just laying down on the grass. So they place in the Eyes of Ender and enter the end. Once in the end, they spawn pretty far away, which is probably why they had to get ender pearls from the ruined portal. So they throw the ender pearl and easily make it. They then drink all 3 of their strength potions and instantly kill the dragon, which is honestly quite impressive. This speedrunner starts in a plains biome, but whenever they turn around, they find tons of snow golems. And I don't even think that snow golems just naturally spawn. But the speedrunner goes over to a tree and begins to mine some wood. Oh, I think they just realized that they're in creative, so they change their game mode back over to survival and then begin to mine the tree. But as they're mining it, they find a barrel. Inside the barrel is a singular ender pearl. So they take the ender pearl and then just randomly throw it. And once the ender pearl lands, they're suddenly in a village. So the speedrunner wanders around the village for a little bit until they head to the blacksmith. They go to open the chest and find some very, very legit loot. So they take their legit loot and exit the blacksmith. But first, they want to look inside this furnace for no reason at all. Oh, would you look at that? A stack of ender eyes. There's actually a 1% chance for a stack of ender eyes to appear inside of a villager's furnace. And the speedrunner just got extremely lucky, so they take their eyes of ender and go around the village some more until they spot a cave inside of the villager's path. So they head over to the cave and find the end portal. So they place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. Once in the end, the speedrunner decides to come up with a 200 IQ play and changes their game mode to creative. They start flying around, breaking every single end crystal in the end, and then they begin smacking the ender dragon, but they're not dealing enough damage. So they start spamming tons of beds on the ender dragon until eventually the ender dragon dies and the speedrunner wins. This speedrunner starts directly on top of a tree inside of a village, but the speedrunner has no way to get down except for a small water pool at the bottom. So they go to jump down inside of it and somehow completely miss, which is honestly just embarrassing. Where the speedrunner enters the closest house, which for some reason has a camel inside of it, even though I'm pretty sure camels only spawn in the nether. So what the heck is a random camel doing here inside of this house? Well, not only that, the camel's name is Camel, but with one extra M, which is honestly a pretty unique name. Where the speedrunner leaves the camel alone and goes down to the next house inside the village. They go up a ladder and find a chest, and this chest has an iron pickaxe. So they take the iron pickaxe and leave the house. They then take exactly 2 logs away from the house and turn those logs into planks, and turn the planks into a crafting table and into sticks. They then begin climbing this mountain until they find a random red rose on the ground. But it is actually impossible for a red rose to randomly spawn inside this biome on the ground. Where the speedrunner breaks the rose and digs directly down from where the rose was at, and within seconds they find diamonds, and they find exactly 3 diamonds. So they place down their crafting table and make themselves a diamond pickaxe. They then just begin digging straight down some more until eventually they end up inside the stronghold with an end portal that is already lit. And the chances of the end portal already being lit is not impossible, but the chances are actually 0.000000001% chance of happening, which makes this speedrun extremely lucky, where they instantly enter the end and find an already dug staircase going straight up. So they go up the staircase and realize that there is no end crystals. Not only that, there's also no ender dragon, but there is some diamond structure in the middle of the end. Not only that, there's also a sign that says dragon was slain by Camel the Camel. So let me get this straight. A camel killed the ender dragon. Yeah, seems about right. The speedrunner just enters the end and gets the world record time for the fastest speedrun. This speedrunner starts by shooting all the zombies with their gun. They shoot tons and tons of zombies and eventually pull out a shotgun and start killing even more zombies and creepers and even skeletons. They then see a big crowd of mobs and begin spraying them down, and they somehow blow up. So the speedrunner uses their insane bridging skills to bridge right over the hole, and they throw a grenade into the nether portal, which blows it up. Oh wait, wrong footage. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. If you're enjoying the video so far, you should probably subscribe. This speedrunner starts in an absolutely terrible biome for speedrunning. So any speedrunner would just leave the world and create a new seed. But instead, this speedrunner decides to go straight inside of the poo-poo pee-pee biome. And as they wander around it, they suddenly find a hole, which for some reason has a nether portal. So the speedrunner just enters the nether. But once in the nether, they look around for a bit, but they're stuck on a little island. So with absolutely nothing that they're able to do on the island, they just simply go back inside the portal. But whenever they go back through it, they're suddenly in a completely different area. And if we compare the 2 entrances to the nether portal, they look absolutely nothing alike. The speedrunner finds a chest to the ruin portal, but once they open the chest, they find extremely overpowered loot. But this loot is also gold. And everybody knows that ruin portals typically only give you full diamond armor and a diamond sword, not whatever the heck this loot is. But the speedrunner takes the loot and begins wandering around the village until they spot a chest. So they go and open the chest and find a singular eye of ender. But they also spot a chest beneath the chest, and they open the chest to find 2 fermented spider eyes? Okay then. I have no idea what the speedrunner is gonna do with 2 fermented spider eyes, but alright then. The speedrunner then finds the bell to the village, and for some odd reason decides to ring the bell for the next hour and a half. Who gets this distracted on a simple bell inside of a speedrun? This speedrunner definitely has some issues. Finally, they stop ringing the bell and enter a villager's house, which for some reason has an end portal, but the end portal is only missing one Eye of Ender. And of course, the speedrunner has only one Eye of Ender. So I guess they just got extremely lucky. They place in the Eye of Ender and enter the end. Once in the end, they go down this very, very naturally generated staircase that they 100% did not place themselves. And as they get closer to the Ender Dragon, they can see that the Ender Dragon is only 1 HP for some reason. So once the speedrunner gets close enough to the Ender Dragon, they smack it one whole time and finish the speedrun. This speedrunner starts in a plains biome. The first thing they do is go in third person, then go inside their settings, and start clicking a bunch of different settings for literally no reason. Like, what is the point in turning your clouds on and off? Once the speedrunner finishes doing that, he then finds a village right behind him, which if you ask me, is a pretty darn lucky spawn. The speedrunner starts making their way to the village, but wait, why are there tons of villagers just on top of this roof? Alright then, this speedrunner is so strange. The speedrunner enters a house and opens a chest which has some pretty normal loot, but for some reason they take none of the loot and instead exit the house, look straight up, turn around, and what the heck? This loot was 100% not in here before, where they take their very, very legit loot and then make their way over to another house that has a chest. But this chest has absolutely nothing inside of it. So I think the speedrunner forgot to place something inside the chest beforehand. Well, they exit the chest and reopen it, and what the heck? Okay, I'm starting to have a weird feeling that this speedrunner is cheating. They take the obsidian and the flint and steel and begin to build themselves a very, very normal nether portal. They enter the nether and immediately find a hole with tons of piglins. But the speedrunner doesn't have any gold. Wait, what? They start throwing tons of their magical gold into the pit, and instead of picking up any of the items that they're trading with the piglins, they instead just leave the nether. Once they're back in the overworld, they suddenly just dig straight down and find an end portal. Of course they do. But wait, the speedrunner doesn't have any Eyes of Ender. Oh my god. They place in all the Eyes of Ender and enter the end. Once in the end, the speedrunner has to use his obsidian to be able to build to the island. Wait, how did they get ender pearls? Well, I guess they can just teleport there as well. Wait, why is the speedrunner typing inside chat? I have to eat dinner? Wait, you can't just stop the speedrun. The speedrunner starts in a normal forest. They then begin aimlessly wandering around until they spot a netherite sword just sitting there on the ground. Well, maybe this chicken dropped it or something. Well, the speedrunner picks up the sword and finds an opening in the mountain and a sign that says cave. It's a good thing there was a sign that said cave, or else I would have had no idea that this was a cave. Well, the speedrunner enters the cave and immediately finds a chest. And inside the chest is a stack of obsidian. So the speedrunner takes the obsidian and begins to build another portal. Oh, okay. And begins to build another portal. Oh. Well, they begin to build another portal. Okay, then. I said they begin to build another portal. There we go. It only took like 10 tries. Wait, I just realized that the speedrunner doesn't even have a flint and steel, so they can't enter the nether. So the speedrunner begins to mine a tree, but for some reason they dig underneath the tree and find a barrel that of course has a flint and steel. So the speedrunner takes the flint and steel and lights the nether portal and enters the nether. Once in the nether, we see whatever the heck this is. Also, the speedrunner goes from full health to like 4 hearts instantly, so they leave the nether. But as they're leaving the nether portal just brings them back to the nether. But this time they have full armor bars. But not even the armor will save him because he gets down to half a heart, and then a random cut happens and the speedrunner magically gains some health. So the speedrunner just begins to start killing the blazes and they get some blaze rods. But suddenly out of nowhere they break a singular piece of dirt and find tons of ender pearls. Yeah, I'm sure he didn't place those there. The speedrunner leaves the nether, but wait, they suddenly have a lot more blaze rods than I remember. Because as they were leaving the nether, they only had 3 blaze rods. But once we see them in the overworld, they suddenly have 9, which I'm sure is completely legit. Well, the speedrunner begins wandering the forest until they suddenly see whatever the heck I'm looking at right now. Well, they climb the ladder, and at the top is an end portal, but it's already lit, which means there was no point in them getting any materials to be able to make Eyes of Ender. Well, the speedrunner enters the end and immediately finds tons of ladders. They use the ladders to get out of the hole and find a chest and a sign that says baby dragon gift for you, and inside the chest is a bow and 2 stacks of arrows. They use the bow to absolutely destroy all of the crystals and eventually even slay the ender dragon, which if you ask me was a pretty impressive speedrun. This speedrunner starts right next to a village, but they also spawn next to a pyramid, which if you're speedrunning is a very, very lucky spawn. The speedrunner makes her way to the village until they suddenly spot a mushroom cow. Everyone knows that mushroom cows only spawn inside of jungles, so what the heck is it doing here inside this village? The speedrunner ignores the cow and enters a house, and in the house we can find a chest, but these types of houses never ever have any chests inside them. So the fact that there's a chest inside this house means that the speedrunner probably placed it. And this point is even more proven because whenever they open the chest, they find full iron armor, some iron tools, and a stack of dirt, which is loot that normally would not spawn. Well, they take the loot and put on the iron armor. They then punch the iron golem and build up, but the iron golem for some reason reason does not attack them. So the speedrunner thinks that the iron golem is nice, so they give the iron golem a flower, which the iron golem completely ignores. So like any normal human, the speedrunner kills the iron golem. Yeah, this speedrunner's got some issues. They then look around for a little bit until they spot something inside the well. So they drop inside of it and find a nether portal. Everyone knows that nether portals spawn beneath wells. Well, the speedrunner enters the nether, and once there, they type inside chat saying, "Hold on, I'm go AFK." Going AFK inside of a speedrun completely defeats the purpose of a speedrun. But not only that, the speedrunner literally sits here for the next half an hour. There is something seriously wrong with this speedrunner. Once they're back, they begin to mine a nether tree. But as they're mining it, they suddenly gain a stack of ender eyes. Since when do these trees drop you a stack of ender eyes? There had to have been an update I must have missed. Well, they leave the nether and build out of the well, and then start heading over to the pyramid. Once in the pyramid, they dig down, but for some reason, there is no pressure plate. Not only that, they open the chests and find tons and tons of diamonds. Holy cow, that's a lot of diamonds. I'm sure they don't need more. Oh my god, more diamonds? Don't tell me the third chest has diamonds as well. Oh my god, of course it does. I'm gonna guess what's gonna be inside this last chest. I'm gonna go with diamonds. If I'm right, everyone has to subscribe. Oh, and look at that, it's diamonds. The speedrunner now has over 100 diamonds. They make themselves a crafting table, and they use the crafting table to make themselves full diamond armor, along with some diamond tools. They build out of the pyramid, and once they leave the pyramid, what the heck is that? I'm pretty sure end portals don't just randomly spawn on the surface like this. But the speedrunner doesn't seem to care and just places his eyes of ender inside the end portal. And once in the end, they spot the portal that leads to the end city. But the thing is, this only shows up once the ender dragon is slain. And what do you know? There's literally no ender dragon. But instead, the speedrunner finds a pile of poop with a sign that says dragon poop. Yeah, I don't know what else you were expecting. They go through the portal and easily win the speedrun. This speedrunner starts by pulling out a lightsaber. They then kill a zombie, then 2 zombies, then 3 zombies, and then somehow deflect an arrow from a skeleton, and then use some magical powers to throw a zombie, and then they throw their lightsaber, which kills the zombie and the creeper, which causes the creeper to blow up. Oh my god, wait, this is the wrong footage. I'm so sorry. This speedrunner starts literally in the middle of nowhere. So they look around for a little bit until they spot something in the distance. Once they get closer, they realize it's a dragon head with a chest and a sign. And the sign says, place sunflower? Well, where is the speedrunner gonna get a sunflower? Oh, wait, never mind. They break the sunflower and place it in the chest. But literally nothing happens. Oh, wait, what the heck? Okay, maybe I'm just blind, but I'm pretty darn sure that was not there before. Well, the speedrunner enters the nether, and once in the nether, they find the exact same thing they saw in the overworld. A dragon head with a chest and a sign. But this sign says Gitif? I think they meant gift, but to be fair though, that is a pretty hard word to spell. They open the chest and find a stack of ender eyes. God, this speedrun is so cursed. They take the ender eyes and go back through the portal. But once they're back in the overworld, there's suddenly an end portal. If you look at the footage from before, there was definitely no ender portal. So I'm very confused how I got there. Well, they place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. But they seem to run into some sort of problem. They're stuck in an end stone box and cannot get out because they don't have a pickaxe. Suddenly the speedrunner types inside chat, "Thank you for watching." Whoa, you can't just end the speedrun here. Oh wait, never mind, I guess he can end the speedrun there. This speedrunner starts right in front of a village. So they enter the village and enter one of the houses which has a chest. And the chest has an iron sword with some iron ingots. Even though these houses do not spawn that type of loot. Well, they take the loot anyways and mine 1, 2, 3 wheat. Then enter another building which has a crafting table. And they use the crafting table to make themselves some bread and a bucket. They fill the bucket up with water and then go inside their settings, which is something that a lot of pro speedrunners typically do. But this speedrunner is just hiding his hand over and over again. Okay then. As soon as they're done doing that, they suddenly spot a lava pool. But there's something a little bit off about this lava pool. Naturally generated lava pools always have stone around them, but this one clearly does not, which means the speedrunner must have placed it there themselves to begin trying to make themselves another portal until they eventually just somehow screw it up. They then look away and turn back and oh my god. Well, they enter the nether and spawn right next to a fortress. So they kill a blaze and break into the fortress. But they also find a blaze spawner. And I'm pretty sure blaze spawners don't even spawn like this. But not only that, there's also a chest that has 2 diamonds inside of it. But if you thought those 2 diamonds were crazy, you're gonna think this chest that has tons of ender pearls inside of it is even more crazier. Well, they begin to leave the fortress, even though they only have 1 blaze rod. They then jump into this lava. Oh wait, never mind, they're perfectly fine. They just lost 1 XP and moved around all their items. I'm sure they didn't die or anything. They leave the nether, and once in the overworld, they see a pyramid out in the distance. So they begin to make their way over to it. But inside the pyramid, pyramid is an end portal? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure end portals don't spawn inside of pyramids. They then go inside their inventory and turn their stack of blaze rods into blaze powder? When did they get a stack of blaze rods? Because we watched them leave the nether with only one blaze rod. Well, they make themselves some eyes of ender and enter the end. But this end fight is extremely weird because there's already no end crystals, but the dragon is perfectly fine. But not only that, the speedrunner gains 4 obsidian and tons of beds, which they 100% did not have before. They try to explode the beds to kill the ender dragon until an enderman suddenly attacks them. But the speedrunner comes up with a 200 IQ move. As they're getting chased, they suddenly turn themselves into creative and just look at the enderman and smack it. That's honestly not even fair for the enderman. Well, now that the speedrunner is in creative, they just spam tons of bed on the ender dragon and eventually just kill it and win the speedrun. This speedrun starts surprisingly pretty darn normal. They go up to a tree, start mining it, then turn their logs into planks, make sticks, a crafting table, and use a crafting table to make themselves a sign? I've never seen a speedrunner make a sign before. Well, the speedrunner places down the sign and begins to type, "I can feel the poop running down my leg." Okay then? I'm not sure why the speedrunner felt like he had to share that information with us. Well, the speedrunner walks away from his sign and sees a turtle. So he jumps into the water and smacks the turtle for literally no reason at all. This is probably the weirdest speedrunner I have ever seen in my entire life. They then just turn their game mode into creative, which is obviously against the rules of speedrunning. They give themselves eyes of ender and throw it to find out where the stronghold is. They then begin flying across the entire world until they come across a village. And for literally no reason at all, they set the entire village on fire. They then dig straight down inside that village, which coincidentally had the stronghold below it. They change their game mode into spectator mode so they can find the end portal much easier. And once they find it, they place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. The speedrunner then gives themselves some dirt and then places down this really cool structure that honestly makes me kind of hungry. They then fly around the entire map, breaking all of the end crystals. And then they keep on smacking the ender dragon until eventually the ender dragon dies. And that's how they got the world record time for the fastest speedrun. This speedrun starts inside of a spruce biome, and the first thing that the speedrunner does is run directly to a ship, which definitely isn't suspicious at all. Once they get inside the ship, they for some reason find a wither skeleton. I thought wither skeletons only spawn inside the desert where it's hot, not inside of a random ship. Well, the wither skeleton hits the speedrunner, so the speedrunner just keeps on beating up the wither skeleton until eventually it dies. The speedrunner then opens the chest and surprisingly finds some pretty normal loot, so they take most of the loot and exit the ship. But then for some reason, they go inside of their settings and just start turning on and off a bunch of random settings. Once they're done doing that, they immediately start digging straight down and find a chest. Now, I have a weird feeling that there are some suspicious items inside of this chest. And if I'm right, I think everyone should subscribe. Well, the speedrunner opens up the chest and finds tons of suspicious items. So I guess that means that everyone now has to subscribe. They take all of the iron, diamonds, and even the ender pearl and build out of the hole. They then, for some reason, just randomly throw their ender pearl, and once it lands, they're in the nether. Alright, this speedrun is definitely cursed. In the nether, we can find some weird path of just this random wood. So of course, the speedrunner follows the path, but some hoglins try and kill them. So he absolutely jukes the hoglins, and at the end of the path is just a normal tree. So the speedrunner starts mining the tree, and that's when the tree suddenly drops item frames and blaze powder, which in case you didn't know is completely fake. They keep on mining the tree and just keep on getting blaze powder. They eventually get 12 blaze powder and also 6 logs, which they use to make themselves a crafting table. They then use the crafting table to make themselves a diamond sword, diamond pants, and a full set of iron armor. They then begin to make their way back towards the portal and go back into the overworld. Once they're back in the overworld, they're in the middle of nowhere. So they just randomly go into the forest and wander around for a little bit until they find a village. But one of the houses inside the village looks a little bit weird. So the speedrunner enters this house and opens the chest to find tons of ender pearls. Okay, this speedrunner is cheating harder than my dad cheats on my mom. Wait, what? The speedrunner uses the blaze powder and the ender pearls to make themselves some eyes of ender. They then start stealing some potatoes from the villager's farm, and that's when they find a random end portal. Even though I could have sworn that end portals only spawn inside of strongholds, not inside of villages. Well, the speedrunner places in all of the eyes of ender and and enters the end. Once they're in the end, things seem pretty normal. There's Enderman, all the pillars look normal, and the Wither is full HP. Wait, what? The Wither? I thought the Ender Dragon spawns in the end, not the Wither. Well, the Wither goes around shooting everyone, and the speedrunner sees that the portal is wide open. So instead of killing the Wither, the speedrunner just goes to the portal and beats the speedrun. The speedrunner starts just simply walking until they suddenly decide to break the roof with their wooden shovel. They break the roof, but then a skeleton shoots their bow at them, and the skeleton starts cranking 90s. So then Steve starts cranking 90s. The speedrunner then places down TNT and a pressure plate and launches the TNT to the skeleton, which ends up killing it, and the speedrunner wins the game. Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. Oh my god, I am so sorry. This speedrunner starts right next to a village. So they immediately head right into the village and enter a house which has a chest. And inside the chest is surprisingly some pretty normal loot. So the speedrunner takes all of the loot, puts on the pants, and leaves the house. The speedrunner runs around and sees a ruined portal out in the distance. Which I'm not gonna lie, a ruined portal right next to a village is an insanely lucky spawn. But first, the speedrunner grabs some wheat and go up to a house and start breaking the log, which they turn into planks to make themselves a crafting table. They then use that crafting table to make themselves some bread. Now that the speedrunner has tons of food, they then head towards the ruined portal, which is only missing a few obsidian. As the speedrunner gets closer, they open the chest and find 2 more obsidian, and also some pretty normal loot as well. Surprisingly, this speedrun doesn't seem too fake. Everything just seems really lucky. Well, the speedrunner can't place the obsidian because it's just way too high. So they then begin mining some grass, but then they run all the way back towards their crafting table, which they use to turn their iron nuggets into iron ingots. But they only have 1 iron ingot. But that's when we can suddenly see that there is some iron on the ground right here for some reason. So the speedrunner picks up the iron and uses it to make themselves an iron pickaxe. And not only that, but also an iron sword. They then head back towards the ruined portal and place in the obsidian and build up and place some more obsidian, which they coincidentally had the exact right amount, which could just be extremely lucky. But the speedrunner uses their fire charge that they got from the ruined portal chest to light the nether portal. They then enter the nether. But once they're in the nether, things are pretty weird because there are tons of nether portals, which I've actually never seen before. Well, the speedrunner just walks past the nether portals except for this last one, which they end up just walking straight through and find 2 llamas. And behind the llamas is a piglin head with a chest and a sign that says Wandering PP Trader. Well, I've never heard of a wandering PP trader before, but it could have just been in the newest update. Well, the speedrunner opens the chest and finds tons of ender eyes. Oh my god, that is definitely not legit. Well, the speedrunner takes all of the ender eyes and starts making their way back towards their nether portal. Once they're back in the overworld, they start heading back towards the village, where they find a sign that says, "There's nothing in this hole, I pinky promise." Yeah, right. Well, the speedrunner goes into the hole and just sits there. Well, you know, I guess there actually is nothing in the hole. So the speedrunner just builds out of the hole and runs around the village some more, until the speedrunner finds this weirdly placed water. And inside the water is a secret tunnel, which for some reason has nothing inside of it. Well, the speedrunner for some reason goes into the marketplace, and they just start looking at cool dinosaurs, aliens, secret doors, and Star Wars. They click on this Star Wars thing and just look at it for a little bit until they suddenly go out of the shop and there's just an end portal here. I think the speedrunner was just trying to distract us while they magically placed an end portal here. Well, the speedrunner places in their very legit Eyes of Ender and enters the end. Once they're in the end, they jump to the island and start climbing this naturally generated staircase. Once they're on top of the island, they find a random ender pearl, so they just pick it up and throw it. And once it lands, they look around and there is just no ender dragon. And because of that, the speedrunner just goes to the portal and beats the speedrun. This speedrun starts in the desert, but they're right next to a desert pyramid. So they start heading over towards the pyramid, but also break some dead bushes on their way there for some sticks. But randomly, while they're on their way there, they break a block beneath this cactus and find a chest which has tons of ender pearls. They then use those ender pearls to get closer towards the pyramid, and once they're in there, they start breaking the block and jump down, but for some reason, there is no pressure plate, which I've actually never seen before inside of a pyramid. The speedrunner opens the first chest and finds some normal loot, but they open the second chest and find a decent amount of diamonds, but also a crafting table. I'm pretty sure crafting tables can't just randomly spawn inside of pyramids. They place down the crafting table and make themselves a diamond pickaxe. They then open the next chest and find tons of blaze powder. They take the blaze powder and open the next chest, which has nothing. Okay then. They then randomly break behind this wall and find a giant area with an end portal. So the speedrunner takes their ender pearls and their blaze powder to make themselves some eyes of ender. They place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. Once they're in the end, they find a path of beds, which has gotta be the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen. They go across the path of beds, and once they're at the main island, there's for some reason just no endermen, and there's also tons of random end crystals by the dragon. So the speedrunner blows up the crystals, which damages the dragon. But then the dragon heals super fast, so I think the speedrunner gets mad because a random cut happens, and they suddenly have strength. They then spend the next 30 minutes killing the ender dragon until eventually it dies and they win the speedrun. If you enjoyed that video, you should probably click this video because this video is also pretty darn cool.